Good morning, my name is Josh from CyclonesOZ, and today another detailed forecast update coming your way. We're going to start things off by recapping what's happened over in Queensland, with a vast quantity of rainfall coming ashore and a little bit more coming through throughout the course of today. Before we talk about some showers and storms for New South Wales expected later on this weekend, some winter weather for Western Australia and some winter weather as well for South Australia, Victoria and Tasmania. So all of that plus more coming up in today's weather forecast. If you are brand new to the channel, then please consider subscribing and also leave a like on the video while you're at it. Your support is greatly appreciated. So like I said, starting things off over in Southeastern Queensland or South Central Queensland with a huge quantity of rainfall that has streamed ashore overnight. Rainfall accumulations have been absolutely massive. I mean, there's nothing more to say. This storm really doesn't need any introduction to that degree here. I'm trying to load up a bit of radar imagery, but you can see still some heavy falls located offshore associated with this low pressure system here located where the cursor is currently situated. In terms of peak rainfall accumulation, Samuel Hill outside of Rockhampton has picked up over 300 millimetres in the past 72 hours. We've got rivers running at major flood level outside of Bundaberg and Gladstone. Rainfall accumulations between Ogmore right through to Bundaberg have been consistently above 200 millimetres in the past 36 to 72 hours. And then along the Sunshine Coast as well, we've had accumulations up to 150 to 200 millimetres, with a little bit more rainfall on the way, especially for areas in the southern parts of the Sunshine Coast, south of Maroochydore, and then down towards Brisbane and the Gold Coast, and into the northeastern section of New South Wales as well. Some rainfall accumulations are expected to amount throughout the course of today, and I'll break those down for you right now. But first of all, if you have got a personal weather station and you've reported an extreme amount of rainfall in southeastern Queensland, I would love to hear from you. So let me know how much you've received and whereabouts you are in the comments section down below. So take a look at the forecast models here. You can see the low pressure system located offshore from the central Queensland coastline between Bundaberg and Rockhampton. It's still firing up some decent convection, i.e. thunderstorm activity, and that's still causing some heavy showers and storms adjacent to the Queensland coastline. You can see they are predominantly out to sea, and they're expected to remain out to sea, but we could still be seeing some heavy falls in the next 3 or 4 hours along the Queensland coastline. Again, the worst of the rainfall is currently over for this part of southeastern Queensland for the this weather event here. Northeastern New South Wales will still have a couple more hours of heavy showers to some moderate to heavy rainfall, especially for locations outside of Grafton and Lismore. The rainfall will continue to be mild to heavy throughout the course of today, but the rainfall should completely ease off by early tomorrow morning. You can see it pulling out of Queensland for the most part by around midday tomorrow, and I didn't ignore this. There is still the chance of some drizzly showers throughout the course of tomorrow throughout southeastern and northeastern New South Wales and Queensland. However, I don't believe that the rainfall is going to be heavy. I don't even think it's going to be measurable for most locations. Still though, an extreme weather event, that's for sure, has just moved through. I've cited a lot of comments about how locations around, say, Mackay and then inland out towards sort of Emerald and Rolleston didn't pick up too much rainfall. Well, they weren't really in the scope of possibility for this rainfall event. The bulk of the rainfall, like I did say, fell between Ogmore down towards Bundaberg. That's where the heaviest of accumulations were, with a small pocket in northeastern New South Wales and a small pocket outside of Townsville adjacent to Charters Towers. The rainfall fell exactly how the forecast was suggesting, which was fantastic to see. The forecast got it right once again, same with the Bureau of Meteorology. It was a pretty easy forecast to make. However, there was about 30 to 40% more rainfall reported in some locations than what was expected. And again, we weren't looking at a major flooding threat. However, rivers outside of Billawheeler have been running at major flooding levels for the last couple of hours. They will continue to drop throughout the course of today, but there is still that flooding threat and that flooding emergency for this part of Queensland that will persist throughout today and into early tomorrow morning. So make sure you are staying safe and staying indoors away from floodwaters. The wind threat as well, the winds will still be high, especially along the coastline of Fraser Island and then down in towards the Sunshine and the Gold Coast. You can see winds here sustained of around 20 to 25 knots, gusting to 35 to 40 knots for some of these locations here. So once again, boating is not advisable throughout the course of today. However, come tomorrow and definitely in towards this weekend, the conditions are going to be becoming a lot more tamer, and you will be able to get a little bit of a boating fix in from about mid-morning tomorrow into, I guess, next weekend and onwards for the foreseeable future. The weather looks pretty good for the Queensland coastline. Just make sure you are staying safe once again, because there will still be some swells around throughout the early hours of tomorrow. They should die off as this tropical low-like system pulls away from the Queensland coastline. In terms of a more long-winded forecast of this tropical low, it is going to be moving further away from the Queensland coastline. It could still pipe up some shower activities for Australian islands such as Lord Howe and Norfolk Islands before it moves on to New Zealand and that sort of area come early this weekend into the middle parts of this weekend, where some heavy showers are expected down there. But again, that's out of our scope of coverage here. If you do have any questions or comments about this weather event, or you'd like to give me a report for your location, then please do let me know in the comment section down below. I'd love to hear from you, especially if you've reported abnormal weather in terms of a huge amount of rainfall that's fallen, and I'm especially excited to hear from people around Rockhampton and Gladstone because that is where the bulk of the rainfall did fall. That wraps us up for Queensland. We're not going to be giving any more love to southeastern Queensland for the foreseeable future. It's been very exciting tracking a tropical-like system, especially this early into the winter season, and we're going to continue doing it. We have some storms expected to pipe up for New South Wales after the rain and the shower activity clears out throughout the course of today. We've got a fine day tomorrow, Thursday, powered by a high-pressure system over the eastern corner of New South Wales. However, come Friday, with this cold front here sweeping up from the Great Australian Bight through South Australia and into Victoria, it's going to be pulling in some warm winds and some very warm air from Queensland and the northern tropical parts of Australia. And we'll start things off by taking a look at temperature forecasts for Friday. Now, this is very interesting. Friday going to be a very warm day, especially for locations in the northern half of New South Wales, north of a line between Broken Hill to Dubbo. Places up there will be receiving maximum temperatures about 5 to 8 degrees Celsius above average, and they could threaten 30 degrees Celsius in some locations Friday afternoon in the very northern extremities of New South Wales. Outside of about Tibooburra, the weather will be quite warm, very nice indeed, very pleasant, and quite abnormally warm for an August day. But this, don't be fooled, we've got a bit of rainfall coming in. Now, with this cold front here, there's going to be a lot of available energy and instability in the environment, and as such, with this warm air, instability and humidity funneling down from Queensland, especially the remnant energy from this rainfall event that they've just received, we're going to be seeing an outbreak of thunderstorms Friday night across the central and the southeastern corner of New South Wales. For locations between Coburg across to Dubbo and then adjacent to the Great Dividing Range and further south towards the New South Wales-Victoria border, including places such as Albury, Griffith, Hay, that sort of area, there will be some thunderstorms firing up throughout Friday afternoon rather into Friday evening. Some of them do have the slim chance of becoming severe thunderstorms, and by severe thunderstorms I'm not meaning all out Armageddon across New South Wales. However, I do suggest the risk of some heavy falls of up to 50 millimeters per hour for some of these locations. Some small hailstones also possible in a weather event like this. The environment will be unstable enough to promote hailstone development. We'll likely be seeing some damaging winds as well associated with these thunderstorms. So just a heads up for those in New South Wales, especially in the south central parts of New South Wales, you do have the chance of some thunderstorms that could potentially be severe Friday afternoon. They will, however, clear out by Saturday morning. Rain will actually take the front's place by around Saturday morning and into early Saturday afternoon across New South Wales, especially across the Great Dividing Range. And as a result, we'll likely be seeing some showers and possibly snow flurries as well for the mountainous areas. But I do think that the winter weather is starting to pack itself up with the trends that we are starting to see across New South Wales and Victoria. I don't think there's going to be too much more in the way of winter weather across the southeastern corner of Australia, definitely not in the terms of severe weather at least. Now, in terms of peak rainfall accumulations from this weather event here, there's nothing too crazy, but still pockets of between 10 and 30 millimeters are possible. Some heavier falls are likely around the Albury sort of area with up to 30 to 40 millimeters of the stuff in the next 5 days. Even Victoria getting a good soak in one or two locations, which is fantastic because they are starting to enter drought-like conditions across a lot of Victoria, and the rainfall down there is a much-needed late-season buff for farmers, so that is fantastic news here. But don't get your hopes up in New South Wales. As with all thunderstorms, the rainfall is incredibly unpredictable. I'm having a very hard time pinpointing locations that are going to pick up the most of the rainfall and the least of the rainfall. I think it's just going to be a wait-and-see sort of weather event. Keep an eye on the radar on Friday. If you do live around the Cobar down towards the Griffith area and within about sort of 150 kilometres of either of those town centres, I would say you've both got the greatest chance of receiving some significant rainfall, but anywhere towards the sort of west of where the cursor is tracking right now, the chances of receiving decent rainfall does fall off a cliff, where it does become pretty minimal indeed. Any questions or comments on this weather event, please do let me know in the comment section down below, and I'll get back to as many people as I can. It's now time for us to switch things up and talk about winter weather across the southwest corner of Western Australia. We do have a cold front sweeping up from the south this morning for the Perth metro area, and you can see it here on the radar imagery overlaid with the satellite imagery. Some showers and storms making themselves at home across the southwest corner of Western Australia. That's bringing some cold air as well, so a bit of a change from the warm, pleasant, almost spring-like conditions that we've been seeing across the southwest for the last week. It's now returned to the miserable, wet, and somewhat windy weather as well. You can see it here on the forecast map. We do have some showers that will be intensifying throughout the course of today, especially for the south coast and into the southwest, or the lower west rather, around the Perth metro area. The showers and storms will be picking up throughout the course of today before easing off temporarily tomorrow morning. And it looks like Thursday and Friday is a return to the cool, calm, dry conditions before before Friday night we see these northwesterlies pipe up again, another cold front sweeping up from the south and impacting the Perth metro area and the southwest corner of Western Australia. Late Friday night this is, but still some unpleasant showers and rainfall expected to start off the weekend. Now, just taking a look at this cold front here that's coming through Saturday morning, the Bureau of Meteorology has highlighted the chances of thunderstorms, and that got me looking at the forecast models a little bit more closely. Considering, once again, how warm the Lewin current is, and again, instability in the environment adjacent to the southwest coastline of Western Australia, I'm looking at the chances of some thunderstorms firing up in the cold front itself of this weather system here once they get towards the Perth metro area. Now, what that means is that there is a chance of a very heavy band of rainfall moving through, which has potentially severe thunderstorms carrying damaging winds and heavy rainfall for the Perth metro area, potentially also the chance of some small hailstones and waterspouts for coastal suburbs. So heads up, Friday night into Saturday morning, this cold front does look quite strong indeed. It looks like it's going to dump at least 15 millimeters of rainfall, potentially up towards 25 for some locations, and there is a slim chance early Saturday morning of some severe thunderstorms. So again, I will keep you posted on that, and there'll be a detailed update tomorrow and on Friday about this weather event here, because I do think that this is certainly something worth worrying about. Now, into the wheat belt and into the central west and the goldfields, there is going to be a little bit of rainfall as well Saturday afternoon, which puts the brakes on a couple of shows planned for the country towns, especially around the lower west outside around Beverley. Country show out there, which I will be attending. It looks like there's going to be a pretty unpleasant weather forecast for those shows, unfortunately, and you can see it here, the rainfall just moving through in a big cold front, miserable drizzle-like pattern on Saturday, and the weather really doesn't look too flash for some of these areas. Now, the rain will continue for the southwest throughout Sunday and into early Monday morning for some of these locations, before it looks like a return to some more cooler, calmer, dry conditions temporarily. Still, though, cold fronts will be sweeping up from the south for the southwest of Western Australia, but the high-pressure ridges look like they're becoming a little bit more robust, which is quite common for this time of the year. We're entering into the middle parts of August, and by the end of this forecast run here, we're talking about late August. So the high-pressure systems and the high-pressure ridges certainly do become a little bit more robust at around this time, and this looks like it is a classic example of winter slowly dying down. We've probably only got another maybe 3 or 4 weeks around the southwest of Western Australia of these cold fronts before it does turn into a more spring and even summer-like weather pattern, and the summer forecasts, they're in the works today, and I will be getting those out sometime later this month, so make sure you are subscribed for them. Now, in terms of rainfall accumulations from the weather events that are coming through today and up to around Friday, not including the cold front coming through Friday, we're expecting up towards 15 to 20 millimeters of Perth. The bulk of the rainfall will be across the eastern and the southeastern suburbs out towards Armidale and Byford, and there's also some rainfall expected down towards Mandurah and then along the southwest coast between Bunbury right down towards Albany up towards 20-25 millimeters is expected. Unfortunately, the rainfall very hit and miss and light in a lot of places across the wheat belt. There will be some decent or more decent falls rather around Katanning, but the rainfall isn't going to be penetrating too far inland and definitely not too far north. Now, if we take into account the rainfall that's going to be coming through on Friday and Saturday, you're looking at up towards 80 or 90 millimeters. The initial cold front is going to be very wet itself, potentially housing up towards 25 millimeters of rainfall, but the showers that follow through immediately behind it and the big rainfall band that's expected to be behind the initial band of potentially severe thunderstorms looks like it's going to house up towards 20 millimeters as well. So I think the Bureau of Meteorology expecting between 2 and 20 millimeters of rain on Saturday is very much lowballing this weather event. Again, the rainfall is relatively unpredictable. I don't think it's as unpredictable as what the Bureau of Meteorology's forecast suggests, but we don't exactly have a precise number on what sort of rainfall we're expecting across the Perth metro area, but I do feel like we're going to be seeing accumulations Saturday morning to the 9 a.m. on Saturday of at least sort of 40 or 50 millimeters across the southwest or the southeastern suburbs of Perth and southwest of Western Australia in general, and I also reckon that there's going to be the chance of some isolated pockets picking up towards 50 or 60 millimeters of rainfall, especially around Waroona or down towards Harvey. The rainfall will likely be a little bit heavier there. Some good falls also expected to follow this weather event into the early parts of next week, especially into the south coastal regions. You can see up towards 100 millimeters expected outside of Walpole and Albany. The rainfall extending as far around towards Esperance, and it's also making it decently far out to the wheat belt. Basically, 90% of the wheat belt is expecting at least 5 millimeters of rainfall in the next 10 days. Some very good accumulations are expected towards the coastal areas and into the southwestern parts of the wheat belt. You can see up towards 40, potentially 50 millimeters of rainfall for some of these locations. So looking really good, and especially considering it's just starting to get a little bit dry across the southwest of Western Australia, this rainfall is fantastic to see, and it is that late season buff that those farmers really do need. And just to finish this video off, taking a look at soil moisture values, I'd like to illustrate my point with how dry the southeastern corner of Australia is and how desperately they do need that late season winter rainfall. I've been watching this map for the last month, and the conditions are just deteriorating for Victoria. You can see soil moisture values about 200% lower than what they are meant to be. No, hang on, that doesn't make sense. About 70% of what the average is. So I'm used to interpreting that number as above average because of our Queensland talk, but soil moisture values are substantially below average across Victoria and parts of New South Wales, and even in towards Tasmania as well. So the rainfall is desperately needed across there. And contrasting that to Queensland, I mean, just take a look at how wet they are with soil moisture values just massively above average considering the rainfall that they have just received. Again, it's absolutely no surprise that they're massively above average, but it is in stark contrast to what's happening across the southeastern corner of Western Australia, and to be honest, quite sad to see, because we've already got exceptional to extreme drought conditions extending across Victoria, and they do, like I said, desperately need that rainfall, with about 95% of the state currently experiencing extreme drought-like conditions. They do look to ease off a little bit, especially with the rainfall coming through on Friday and Saturday this weekend for Victoria, but again, the drought-like conditions, you need a lot more rainfall than 50 millimetres to quench the drought across the southeast of Australia. So this rainfall here, it isn't enough, but it is a great start indeed. And you can see it here on the rainfall accumulation map. There is a good amount of green to light blue colouring, which does indicate some decent falls across Victoria and even in towards Tasmania as well. They're expecting some very decent falls, but we just don't have enough rainfall right now. So it'd be good to see a little bit more coming through Victoria in the next month or so, which I do believe they will receive. Again, that's been a long-winded forecast update, a massive emphasis on drought talk as well, especially in stark contrast to the massive rainfall that Queensland has just received. Any questions or comments or a weather report for your location, please do consider leaving it in the comment section down below. I'd love to get back to as many people as I can throughout the course of today. Thank you so much for the recent support in the channel as well and the videos. That is greatly appreciated. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing and also leave a like on the video while you're at it. A special shout out to the channel sponsors. Their names are on screen right now and I could not run this show without them. That is all for me today, and I'll catch you all in the next storm. Goodbye.